During the month of May, we are honoring Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and today's Moment That Matters looks into the history of this group in the United States and how they have fought to be seen as Americans.
I look with great pride at the courage my grandfather had in coming to America.
That journey helped turn young Gordon Kwan into a leading U.S. immigration attorney. He knows better than most how hard crossing to America has been for many groups. For Asians, it was marked by America's first immigration ban based on race, starting with the Page Act in 1875 targeting Chinese women, and the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1882 that largely stopped Chinese men from immigrating and those already here from naturalizing. Western states pushed the law through by cutting a deal with southern states targeting another minority.
The people in the South didn't care about Chinese. There weren't any Chinese there.
They cared about the Jim Crow Act.
Right.
The bottom line of that deal was, yes, I vote for the Exclusion Act if you vote for Jim Crow.
Exactly.
Then, 3 years later, in 1885, came the Rock Springs Massacre. An ongoing dispute over Chinese coal miners in Wyoming spiraled into a bloodbath.
White immigrant workers thought that they were going to be displaced by these Chinese workers, decided to engage in vigilante justice,
killing 28 Chinese miners, injuring others, and burning dozens of homes. But tensions between cultures went beyond borders when the U.S. colonized the Philippines after winning the Spanish-American War in 1898. Military officials uprooted indigenous tribesmen to showcase them at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. This human display was a display of imperial power.
Filipinos were displayed in this World's Fair as savages, as barbarians, as almost like animals.
Young Filipinos eventually became farmers in California, but under cheap pay and poor living conditions. In 1930, a white mob attacked Filipino farm workers for dancing with white women, sparking similar attacks in other cities.
There were incidents where they would create riots or they would assault Filipinos.
Then came World War II. China and the U.S. became allies, the Flying Tigers a high-profile example, and the Exclusion Act became a high-profile embarrassment.
When you wear a uniform, serve for your country, they pay attention to us.
Louis Yi, then an 18-year-old soldier, helped with the petition that ended the immigration ban.
So 1943, they get the exclusion law, do away with it.
But also during World War II, 120,000 Japanese, 70,000 of them U.S. citizens, were sent to internment camps for the duration of the war. This, as some 33,000 Japanese served in the U.S. military and comprised the legendary 442nd Regimental Combat Team. That unit was the most highly decorated unit of the entire war. Decades later, another war in Vietnam, sending 130,000 refugees to the U.S. By the late 70s, many became shrimpers on the Gulf Coast. The competition triggered shootings, boat burnings, along with assaults and intimidation by the Ku Klux Klan. Then, in 1982, a killing that outraged and galvanized Asian Americans. 27-year-old Vincent Chin was murdered the night of his bachelor party in Detroit. Two white auto workers beat him to death with a baseball bat, apparently blaming Japanese car makers for taking American jobs. Chin was Chinese. The punishment against his killers, a $3,000 fine.
Unimaginable, these things.
But as the world was grieving, the 9/11 terror attacks also spawned even more hate, this time towards South Asians. Bullying, harassment, racial profiling, and places of worship vandalized. The first month after September 11th, there were more than 300 cases of violence and discrimination against Sikh Americans alone in the U.S. Nearly 20 years later, tracking hate crimes against the community continues to this day. Discrimination and violence is often triggered by greed or fear and frustrations like jobs, safety and security with family and health, and a lack of familiarity.
It is easy to be afraid of and to fight what we do not know.